And what we're talking about here is something called tippet rings. What's happening there, everybody? Brandon here again. Today on Shop Talk, we're going to talk about a little nifty item that I've been using for a number of years. If you're not aware of what they are, they can help you out, especially on the trout stream. And what we're talking about here is something called tippet rings. If you don't know what a tippet ring is, I'm about to show you. Okay, so if you're like me when you're trout fishing, a lot of times you're throwing maybe multiple fly rigs, like a double nymph rig or something. Maybe you're throwing some split shot with it. Or, you know, if you're dry fly fishing, you might need to sometimes downsize your line to get bites. So you have to put on a piece of 6X or 7X tippet to get it done. Any of that kind of stuff. Life is a lot easier if you have something like a tippet ring in place, which I'm going to show you this packaging here kind of close. So on that snap swivel right there are these itty bitty tiny little rings that in your line will allow you to tie a piece of tippet on the end of your leader, change that piece of tippet anytime you want. So, for instance, let's say you normally fish a 7.5 foot 5X leader. So this is a tapered leader that's 7.5 feet long. At the skinny business end where your fly goes, it's 5-pound test. So if you start going up the leader, let's say about 2 feet, and cut into it, it's not 5-pound test anymore. Maybe it's more like 8-pound test at that point. So if I cut my leader about 2 foot up, where it's about 8-pound test, and put this tippet ring in there, then tie the piece of leader that I just cut off right back on, I have essentially introduced this tippet ring in a spot in my leader that theoretically, from the tippet ring all the way back to my fly line, shouldn't ever break, because it's a heavier pound test than the business end that my fly is attached to. So now if I need to change that piece of tippet on the end at any point, if I want to go, let's say, to some fluorocarbon as opposed to mono, I can just cut it at the ring, add my piece of fluorocarbon tippet. I can change the size. I can run it to 6X, I can run it to 7X, or anything like that. Now for me, what I've been doing a lot lately, I actually have been going to something like a 7.5 foot 3X leader, which is 8-pound test to begin with, putting my tippet ring on the end of my 3X leader where it's 8-pound break strength, and then just adding my piece of 5X or 6X or 7X to the end of that. And I can fish the whole season with that same 7.5 foot 3X leader that's got this tippet ring tied on the end of it, and just add the pieces of tippet I need to whatever I want. If I'm streamer fishing, I can put a piece of 4X on there. If I'm dry fly fishing, I can put a piece of 6X on there. More importantly, if I'm doing a double nymph rig and I'm going to use some split shot, I can shorten my piece of tippet from my tippet ring to about 8 or 10 inches, and I can put my split shot right above the tippet ring. That way it never slides down to the nose of my flies. The tippet ring keeps it in place. I'm going to try to section off a little tippet ring here to show you exactly what we're talking about in terms of size. Alright, so if you have a look at the packaging here, that itty bitty guy right there is a tippet ring by itself. Tiny little thing. So it actually will float on the surface of the water. If you're thinking about dry fly fishing, yes, that little tippet ring will float. Now, what I do, if you'll notice on this packaging, the split ring, to get one tied on, you're not going to be able to try to get this thing off on your finger like that and hold on to it to tie it. What you want to do is separate the next one in line that's going to come off of this snap swivel and isolate it like that. Go ahead and run your leader through that tippet ring and tie it on with whatever knot you like. Once it's tied onto your leader, then you can take it off of that snap swivel and attach your piece of tippet to it. Try and hold on to that little thing by itself is going to be nearly impossible. Especially on the river, you're just going to drop them and lose them all, so don't do that. But just so you know, yes, that thing will float. Fish don't see it, they ignore it. If you know anything about fly fishing around here where I'm at in the southeast, I can dry fly fish the Davidson River with that joker and catch fish. So if you can catch fish there on it, you can catch fish anywhere on it. Alright, so just to wrap it up about the tippet ring. So prior to me using this, no matter what knot I was using to attach tippet to leader material together, whether it was uni knots or blood knots or double surgeon's knots or whatever I was using, if I was breaking a fish off on the hook setter during the fight, I almost would always break the fish off at the knot that was attaching my leader to my piece of tippet. Very rarely did I actually break off at the knot on the fly itself or at the fly. I was always at the knot joining the two lines together. So I figured that that knot obviously was the weak point. So by using a tippet ring instead of that knot, I can tie whatever knot I tie my flies on with, whether it's improved clinch knots or whatever you like. If you're tying that knot to a tippet ring and then tying the same knot with your piece of tippet to the ring, it's the same break strength as the knot that your fly is tied on with. It's not the weak link anymore. That was the biggest reason why I went to it, but the convenience and ease of it for changing my pieces of tippet anytime I want, changing the size of my tippet anytime I want, switching from fluorocarbon to mono anytime I want, made it just a real game changer. And again, nymphing with split shot, putting it above your tippet ring so it doesn't slide down your nose of the fly, another big deal. So in conclusion with that, if you're loving the Poppin' Bug t-shirt, that's my own design, hit me up, I'll let you know where to get one. We'll see you next time on Shop Talk.